There we are. We're just waiting for Brandon, I believe. Shazam. All right. Let's get started. I'd like to call the meeting to order and welcome everyone to the hearing. I do confirm that we have quorum. Everyone's here. I'd like to respectfully acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe under the terms of the Robertson-Huron Treaty number 61 of 1850 and the Williams Treaties of 1923. We commit to acknowledge, learn, educate, create opportunity, honor sacred spaces, sacred places, and take actions towards real truth and reconciliation in support of our commitment to walking the path together in respect, peace, and harmony for future generations. And I have a motion. Moved by Councillor Fitzgerald, seconded by Helena Renwick. Be it resolved that the Committee of Adjustment agenda. Oh, Councillor Fitzgerald. Oh, you are here. Okay, sorry. Be it resolved that the Committee of Adjustment agenda dated April 13, 2022 be hereby adopted as printed and circulated. All in favor? And that's carried. Even by Councillor Fitzgerald. Excellent. Any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. I have another motion. Moved by Brandon Stapleton, seconded by Councillor Fitzgerald. Be it resolved that the Committee of Adjustment meeting minutes dated March 16, 2022, and the recommendations contained therein be hereby adopted as printed and circulated. All in favor? And that's carried. All right. I'd like to welcome everyone to the public meetings to consider applications to the minor variances to the zoning bylaw. The input received by agencies, public, and staff is important in order for the committee to make sound planning decisions. The procedure to be followed in these meetings will be as follows. A brief explanation of the application and any correspondence received to date will be given by staff. The applicant or the representative will be asked to provide any additional comments without repeating the information already outlined by staff. Any members of the public present will then be permitted to ask questions or provide comments respecting the applications. Any persons making representation are requested to first state their name and mailing address. Please note that presentations are limited to 10 minutes. Once the hearing is concluded, the input received will be considered by the committee prior to making a decision on the applications. If you wish to be notified of a decision of the committee, you must file a written request for notification. And now we're going to the first application. Madeline's going to speak to 237 Cookson Bay Crescent.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I'm just going to take a second to share my screen. Can I confirm if everyone can see that okay?
We can.
Perfect. Through you, Mr. Chair, the subject property is located at 237 Cookson Bay Crescent. The lot is designated Hidden Valley Recreational Lifestyle and Resort Area in Huntsville's official plan and zoned Shoreline Residential 1 under Huntsville's zoning bylaw. The application is to permit the construction of a 24-meter squared detached one-story garage. A minor variance is required for the garage to allow for a detached garage to be located closer to the front lot line than the principal dwelling, reduce the front yard setback from 12 meters to 3 meters, reduce the easterly side yard setback from 6 meters to 1.2 meters, and increase the maximum width for shoreline structures from 7.6 meters to 10 meters to recognize an existing dock. The minor variance will be conditional on the shoreline buffer area remaining in a 100% naturally vegetated state, with the exception of a footpath to the dock. The dock was noted to be existing at the time the owners purchased the property in 1997. However, there is no indication as to when the structure was constructed. As such, we are proposing to recognize this structure by permitting an increase to the maximum width. Based on the configuration of the property, the garage is proposed in the most suitable location as it is elevated from Cookson Bay Crescent, already cleared, which will mitigate any vegetation removal, and is on level ground at the end of the existing driveway, which does not interfere with any sloping on the property. The south portion of the property acts as a buffer between the north portion and Cookson Bay Crescent to Fairy Lake. This area is naturally vegetated with the exception of a gravel shoulder off of Cookson Bay Crescent and a footpath leading to the dock. To prevent further development within the shoreline buffer and any vegetation removal, the owners have agreed to a condition to require the shoreline buffer area to remain in a fully naturally vegetated state with the exception of the footpath to the dock. Looking at the official plan, the Hidden Valley Recreational Lifestyle and Resort Area designation anticipates commercial uses and recreational resort residential development. In this instance, the proposed one-story garage is in conformity with the respective designation. Natural constraint mapping identifies type 1 fish habitat and sloping of 20 to 40%. It also notes that Fairy Lake is a cold water lake that contains lake trout habitat. As the proposed garage is separated from Fairy Lake by Cookson Bay Crescent, any risks to fish habitat with the addition of the garage would be mitigated. The application was circulated in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act, and 5 letters of support were provided for the application and circulated to the committee prior to the meeting. The application would appear to conform to the intent of the official plan and be consistent with the provincial policy statement. Additionally, the application appears to satisfy the 4 tests for a minor variance as set out in the Planning Act, and therefore staff are recommending approval. Thank you for listening, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thanks for that, Madeline. And I want to congratulate you on the graphics with the arrows.
Oh, thank you.
It helps everyone, including the public, identify what we're looking at. So I'll call on the applicant or the representative to make any comments.
The applicant or their representative are reminded to use the raised hand button or press *9 to indicate that they would like to address committee. And Chair Stone, I do see one hand. Would you like me to bring them in?
I would, please. And welcome, Jennifer. This is your first time.
Thank you. Please note that during the transition, your video panel will be momentarily interrupted. Once you have been added to the meeting, your video will appear in the committee member panel. Please have your microphone and video, if possible, turned on before you begin speaking, and confirm your name and mailing address.
Hello there.
Hi. We just wanted to come on to say thank you very much to the committee for taking the time to listen to our application for minor variance. And we just want to be available if you have any further questions. We don't have anything really in particular to say, just to note that the structure where the garage would be built is on an existing driveway that was there when we purchased the property in 1997. And as you can see from one of the photos, we do have a portable shelter there. So it's actually going to be in the same place that the shelter would be. It's just going to be quite a bit smaller. And in reference to the dock was also built there when we purchased the property. In fact, we just reduced it in size. There are cribs on either side.
Perfect. Thank you. Stay with us, but if you can mute yourself and take your video down, I'm going to go to the public and ask if they have any questions.
Members of the public are reminded to use the raise hand button or press *9 to indicate that they would like to address committee. And Chair Stone, I see no hands raised.
All right. Committee members, any comments or questions? All right. Seeing none. Moved by Helena Renwick, seconded by Kenneth Donald. Be it resolved that minor variance application A08-2022 HTE be approved. The purpose and effect of which is to provide relief from subsections 3.1.15.1, 5.3.4, 5.3.4, and 3.1.18.5, I can't believe I have to say all that, of the Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 2008-66P in order to allow for a detached garage to be located closer to the front lot line than the principal dwelling, reduce the front yard setback from 12 meters to 3 meters for a one-story detached garage, reduce the easterly side yard setback from 6 meters to 1.2 meters for a one-story detached garage, and increase the maximum width for shoreline structures from 7.6 meters to 10 meters to recognize an existing dock, conditional on the shoreline buffer area remaining in a 100 naturally vegetated state with the exception of the footpath to the dock. Any further comments or questions? All in favor? Perfect. That's carried. All right. Moving on, Madeline, you're going to tell us about 58 Florence Street West.
Yes, I'm just going to share my screen. Okay, we can all see that okay?
Yes.
Perfect. So through you, Mr. Chair, the subject property is located at 58 Florence Street West. The lot is designated urban residential in Huntsville's official plan and zoned residential 2 under Huntsville zoning bylaw. The applicant is proposing to establish a duplex by adding a 2-story addition to the existing structure on the lot. The application is to permit the construction of a 150 meter square 2-story addition. A minor variance is required for the addition, to reduce the front yard setback from 7 meters to 6.5 meters and reduce the rear yard setback from 10 meters to 5 meters. The minor variance will be conditional on maintaining a 1 meter wide vegetative buffer along the rear and westerly side lot lines. The property is currently developed with a 1-story frame structure to which the proposed 2-story addition will be attached to establish a duplex. The subject lands are relatively flat and the perimeter of the property is lined with mature trees, specifically along the rear yard. The surrounding land uses are low, medium, and high density residential. Based on the configuration of the property, the 2-story addition is sited in the most suitable location, given it is an already cleared and level area and fully encompasses the existing structure. The size and scale of the proposed duplex structure will reflect that of the surrounding area, reducing any significant impact to abutting landowners. Additionally, the owner has agreed to maintaining a vegetative buffer along the rear and westerly side yards adjacent to the proposed structure to provide screening. Looking at the official plan, the urban residential designation anticipates a mix of low to high residential density development that respects the character, servicing, and setting of the urban residential area. In this instance, the proposed addition and duplex is in conformity with the respective designation. The application was circulated in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act, and no comments were received from the public. The application would appear to conform to the intent of the official plan and be consistent with the provincial policy statement. Additionally, the application appears to satisfy the 4 tests for a minor variance as set out in the Planning Act, and therefore staff are recommending approval. Thank you, and I would be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thanks very much. I'll call on the applicant or representative to make any comments.
The applicant or the representative are reminded to use the raise hand button or press *9 to indicate that they would like to address committee. And Chair Stone, I see no hands raised.
All right, then let's go out to the public and ask if anyone else has any comments.
Members of the public are reminded to use the raise hand button or press *9 to indicate that they would like to address committee. And again, Chair Stone, I see no hands raised.
Okay, committee members, do I see any hands here? We do, Ms. Renwick.
Through you, Chair Stone, I just have a quick question about the eastern setback between the two properties. So there's no mention of any easement on that side, on the eastern side between the other property, because it is going from, I think, 4.5 meters down to 2.37 meters. But there's no, I guess there's no requirement to ask for an easement there.
Madeline?
Yeah, so through you, Chair Stone, to Helena. Just to confirm that the side yard setback for the easterly side yard is actually 1.5 meters. So the proposed addition is meeting that setback, so there's no relief required.
I see. Okay. And if I may, Chair Stone, to Madeline as well, is this going to be a multi, it's no longer a single dwelling, single resident dwelling, is it? Is it now multiple as a duplex? Is it one family or, yeah, okay.
Sorry, through you, Chair Stone, it'll be 2 units.
Okay.
So it could be 2 separate families.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
Wonderful. Any other comments or questions? All right then. Moved by Kenneth Donald, seconded by Brandon Stapleton. Be it resolved that minor variance application A 10 2022 HTE be approved. The purpose and effect of which is to provide relief from subsections 5.2.4 and 5.2.4-19 of the Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 2008-66P in order to reduce the front yard setback from 7 meters to 6.5 meters for a 2-story addition to the existing structure and reduce the rear yard setback from 10 meters to 5 meters for a 2-story addition to the existing structure. Conditional on maintaining a 1 meter wide vegetative buffer along the rear and westerly side lot lines. Any comments or questions? All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, Madeline, 6 Renwick Road.
Can we all confirm if we can see that?
Yes.
Perfect. So through you, Mr. Chair, the subject property is located at 6 Renwick Drive. The lot is designated rural in Huntsville's official plan and zone rural residential with exception 0844 under Huntsville zoning bylaw, which speaks to the minimum elevation that structural development should occur. An application has been submitted to permit the construction of a 365 square meter 1-story walkout dwelling with attached garage, open deck, and entry porch. A minor variance is required to increase the maximum permitted primary lot coverage from 10% to 15%. The minor variance will be conditional on accessory lot coverage being reduced from 5% to 0%, maintaining a vegetative buffer along the interior side yards and rear yard, and an engineered drainage plan being submitted as part of the building permit to ensure that there is no negative effect on abutting parcels. Based on the configuration of the property and the proposal, the proposed dwelling is well within the required yard setbacks for the rural residential zone, and staff are satisfied that the intent of the zoning provisions will be maintained. To prevent overdevelopment on the property, accessory lot coverage will be reduced to 0%, which will prevent any future development for primary and accessory structures. Total lot coverage for the property will be capped at 15%. As the property is low-lying and grade alterations are anticipated to achieve positive drainage and permit the proposed walkout away from the dwelling, the town will require the owners to submit an engineered drainage plan as part of their building permit to ensure that there is no effect to neighboring properties. Looking at the official plan, the rural designation is generally characterized by extremely low density development, generally serviced by private water and sewer, in a natural setting where built form does not dominate the landscape. In this instance, the use of the subject lands for a single detached dwelling is in conformity with the respective designation. To further maintain rural character, a condition has been added to maintain existing vegetation along the interior side yards and rear yards. This will act as a buffer from neighboring properties and the school and provide areas to assist with drainage. The application was circulated in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act, and no comments were received from the public. The application would appear to conform to the intent of the official plan and be consistent with the provincial policy statement. Additionally, the application appears to satisfy the 4 tests for a minor variance as set out in the Planning Act, and therefore staff are recommending approval. Thank you, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks very much. Let's go to the applicant or the representative to make any comments.
The applicant or the representative are reminded to use the raise hand button or press *9 to indicate that they would like to address committee. Chair Stone, I see no hands raised.
Okay, then let's go to the public, see if they have any comments.
Members of the public are reminded to use the raise hand button or press *9 to indicate that they would like to address committee. And Chair Stone, I see no hands raised.
All right, they're keeping it easy on us. Committee members, comments or questions? Nothing there either. Okay. Moved by Councillor Fitzgerald, seconded by Helena Renwick. Be it resolved that minor variance application A12-2022 HTE be approved. The purpose and effect of which is to provide relief from subsection 5.2.411 of the Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 2008-66P in order to increase the maximum permitted primary lot coverage from 10% to 15% for the construction of a 1-story walkout dwelling with attached garage, open deck, and entry porch on the lot, conditional on accessory lot coverage being reduced from 5% to 0%, maintaining a vegetative buffer along the interior side yards and rear yard, and an engineered drainage plan being submitted as part of the building permit to ensure that there is no negative effect on abutting parcels. Comments or questions? All in favor? There we go, carried. All right, Madeline, 5 Ruby Lane.
We can all see that okay?
We can.
Perfect. Through you, Mr. Chair, the subject property is located at 5 Ruby Lane. The lot is designated rural within the Griffin Bluff Special Policy Area in Huntsville's official plan and zoned rural residential with exception 0148 under Huntsville zoning bylaw, which restricts clearing on the property by requiring that 80% of the lot be maintained in a natural state. An application has been submitted to permit the construction of a detached 2-story garage with a secondary residential dwelling unit on the 2nd floor. A minor variance is required for the structure to increase the maximum permitted gross floor area for a secondary residential dwelling unit within a detached accessory building from 75 meters squared to 120 meters squared. According to section 3.21 of the zoning bylaw as amended, 1 secondary residential dwelling unit is permitted on a rural residential zoned property, provided it meets specific development criteria, including meeting minimum lot area and frontage requirements, parking requirements, and a 75 meter square maximum floor area requirement. The relief to permit an increase in the maximum unit size from 75 meters squared to 120 meters squared to create a 1-bedroom plus den long-term rental unit. The proposed secondary residential dwelling unit will be fully contained within the proposed detached garage. Due to the area being already cleared, there will be no further loss of vegetation. This is in keeping with the exception zoning on the property and the 80% vegetation maintenance requirement that will be maintained as part of this proposal. And I just wanted to take a moment to point out the top right photo, which shows the location of the proposed garage and unit. Looking at the official plan, the Griffin Bluff Special Policy Area designation is generally characterized by extremely low density development, generally serviced by private water and sewer, in a natural setting where built form does not dominate the landscape. The Griffin Bluff Special Policy Area allows for residential development and requires areas outside of building and septic envelopes to be retained as a vegetative buffer. Uses in this area will be limited to single detached residential units and accessory uses. In this instance, the use of the subject lands for a two-story garage with a secondary residential dwelling unit is in keeping with the contemplated policies of the town's official plan. The proposed area for the garage is sited in a level and clear area, and the garage is set back a considerable way from all lot lines and will be hidden from view by the dense vegetation and trees that currently surround the area. The garage has been designed to match the scale and massing of the dwelling and is in keeping with the character of the rural area. The application was circulated in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act. 2 letters of support were provided for the application and provided to committee prior to the meeting. The application would appear to conform to the intent of the official plan and be consistent with the provincial policy statement. Additionally, the application appears to satisfy the 4 tests for a minor variance as set out in the Planning Act, and therefore staff are recommending approval. Thank you for your attention, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks very much. I'll ask the applicant or representative to make any comments.
The applicant or their representative are reminded to use the raise hand button or press *9 to indicate that they would like to address committee. And Chair Stone, I see no hands raised.
Okay, members of the public then.
Members of the public are reminded to use the raise hand button or press *9 to indicate that they would like to address committee. Chair Stone, I see no hands raised.
Okay. Committee members, any comments or questions? We've got 2. Mr. Donald.
Thank you, Chair Stone. Through you to Madeline. Madeline, you mentioned that this is going into, the intended purpose for the residential dwelling unit will be for long-term rental. Would this be part of the Attainable Housing Initiative? Could it be considered in that fashion? And I have a follow-up question.
Madeline?
Thank you, Kenneth. Through you, Mr. Chair. I believe it could be. I don't know if that is the intent that the owners are looking at it. I just know that they are looking at it to be a long-term rental, which would be permitted.
If I may
Okay.
add, that's a program through the district, actually, if they wanted relief for attainable housing.
Yeah.
Kenneth, you had a
Yeah,
follow-up?
and one follow-up question. And assuming the development goes ahead, is there any impact on parking? Is this likely to cause any issues for residents, or is the existing driveway large enough?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the property is quite large and the driveway is sufficient for the parking requirements.
Thank you.
All right. Helena Renwick.
Actually, Chair Stone, Member Donald had the same question that I did, so thank you for asking that question.
All right.
Thanks.
Any other comments or questions? All right then. Moved by Brandon Stapleton, seconded by Councillor Fitzgerald. Be it resolved that minor variance application A13-2022 HDE be approved. The purpose and effect of which is to provide relief from subsections 3.21 AF of the Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 2008-66P in order to increase the maximum permitted gross floor area for a secondary residential dwelling unit within the detached accessory building from 75 square meters to 120 square meters for a 2-story garage with a secondary residential dwelling unit on the 2nd floor. Comments or questions? All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you, Madeline.
Thank you.
I believe Kelsey is going to speak to 92 Timber Crescent.
Yes, I am. Thank you so much. I'll just prepare my screen.
Okay.
I believe everybody's able to see that.
We can.
Great. Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, the subject property is located at 92 Timber Crescent. The lot is designated rural and is zoned shoreline residential 1. The application has been submitted to permit a 104 square meter detached 2-story garage. A minor variance is required to decrease the eastern interior side yard setback from 6 meters to 0.9 meters, decrease the front yard setback from, did that in reverse, from 12 meters to 7.5 meters, and increase the maximum permitted total building area for the detached 2-story garage from 60 square meters to 104 square meters. The SR1 zone requires a 6-meter interior side yard setback for garages. The purpose of this provision is to ensure adequate distancing between development on abutting lots and to create a buffer to allow for maintenance for drainage purposes. The zone also requires a 12-meter front yard setback for properties without frontage on a navigable waterway, which is the same front yard setback for rural residential. For this proposal, the garage is sited in proximity to existing development and is informed by the topography of the site. The relief required for the front yard is also considered minor. However, vegetation should be retained and added where possible to further screen the proposed garage from the road. It's also worth noting that 2-story garages within the SR1 zone are also limited to a 60 square meter footprint. The purpose of this provision is to ensure shoreline development is of appropriate scale and to reduce visual impacts from the shoreline. Where a property has no water frontage, such as this provision would be applicable to minimize visual impacts from the road. The proposed garage will have the appearance of a 1-story garage. It will have a gabled roof with loft space, so that's why we had to call it a 2-story garage. A condition is also recommended to require that there be no habitable space within the garage. So this is the proposed location of the garage. Looking at the official plan, the rural area is characterized by having extremely low density and development occupying a very small portion of the lot. The plan also discusses the preservation of rural character, which outlines that build form should be not dominate over the natural landscape, and development setbacks from the road will provide sufficient buffer between development for visual and noise impacts. In this instance, the proposed garage is to be set back in an already cleared area next to the existing development and driveway, and is to occupy a smaller portion of the property, which is already developed. The location of the garage will ensure portions of the other portions of the property will remain natural, and the orientation of the garage will reduce visual impacts. As mentioned, additional vegetation should be added to retained to ensure that there's a buffer between the road. Natural constraints mapping identified steep slope areas and deer wintering habitat on the property. As the detached garage is sited away from these steep slopes, this constraint is not of concern. The garage is also placed in a clear area, so adverse impacts to deer wintering habitat will be minimized. The application was circulated in accordance with the Planning Act. Comments were received and provided to committee prior to the meeting regarding concerns about the proposal and the restricted covenant registered on title. Please note that restricted covenants describe development restrictions on the property. However, this covenant is not implemented or enforced by the town. Given the raised items about the restricted covenant, staff are now recommending deferral until such time the applicant and the commenting party can discuss the concerns and come to a consensus. Thank you for this time, to do the presentation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, Kelsey, if you can stop sharing. And my question to you is, if we defer this, will the public then have an opportunity to speak, or is this their only opportunity to speak to committee?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the question. I believe that yeah, they're able to speak. The public would be able to speak at this meeting, and then if the committee wants to bring forward a new motion to defer, they can do that. But I welcome Kristen or Richard to correct me if I'm wrong.
Kirsten, please, because I know we don't often give a second opportunity to speak.
No, and Ms. Shadlock was absolutely right. What we were proposing today is that we would go through the public meeting process so that anyone that was in attendance would have the opportunity to speak. And if committee chose to defer or approve or whatever committee decision is, then we would work out if there was going to be a second public meeting or not. So.
All right, thanks. Then at this point, we will go to the applicant and ask if they have anything to add.
The applicant or their representative are reminded to use the raise hand button or press *9 to indicate that they would like to address committee. And Chair Stone, I do see one hand raised.
All right.
I'll bring them into the meeting now. A reminder to please have your microphone and video, if possible, turned on before you begin speaking, and to confirm your name and mailing address.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and committee. My name is Wayne Simpson and Associates, 3-76 King William Street, Huntsville, P1H 1E4. Appreciate the report that was prepared by Kelsey. There were a lot of questions during the discussion after the application was submitted, in large part because the ground was covered with snow and it's kind of hard to see all of the terrain. So we're really pleased that when all of that was said and done, and Kelsey had an opportunity to go out there, I believe a few times, so hopefully the town pays her mileage for that. But she was able to, to really see the nature of the application, and we agree with her recommendation, except for the recommendation of deferral. And we know that was sort of sprung on Kelsey as well at the last minute by I'll call the association. I'm not sure what the full title is of the association, but they requested deferral, and I gathered from Kelsey's remarks that the email from the association secretary that cited some OMB cases was circulated to the committee. I would like to begin by saying that there are sort of two parallel processes going on here. And Kelsey was quite correct in saying that the responsibility of the municipality is not to enforce rules that are under restrictive covenants or agreements between parties. Those are civil matters. The responsibility of the council and the Committee of Adjustment is to consider applications that are made under the Planning Act. So it's a legislative responsibility. And I would say that, if the matter was deferred and if the committee associations said, well, we don't have any problem with it, the Committee of Adjustment would be no more bound to approve it because of that. And likewise, if the committee approves the variance today, then the association is no more bound to grant any relief from the restrictive covenant. There are two distinct matters in play here. One is a legislative function of the municipality, and the other is the matter of a civil matter between the association and its members, and those obligations are registered untitled, as was pointed out by the secretary. Now, my clients did speak to the association and did have a meeting with the executive of the board of the association, I believe back in about January. So they've had plenty of opportunity to comment on it, and so their comment coming in on the 12th of April, when the meeting's on the 13th, is somewhat disingenuous in my opinion. They had a lot of opportunity to say something. The sign was posted weeks ago. So anyway, I would just like to say that Kelsey's report is from a planning perspective is I believe fully correct and accurate in every respect. Her determination that the variances are minor is proper in my professional opinion. And the only point of disagreement is whether it should be deferred. My client, is not anxious, and I quite frankly see no reason for the deferral. As I mentioned, that we can't have an association or a civil arrangement between parties form, usurp the authority of the committee or, fetter the judgment of the council or committee in terms of how it handles the legislative function it's been assigned. So we would ask that the committee approve the variance as recommended by staff. We do note that the staff recommendation is that there be additional planting provided between the garage and the roadside, which is appropriate. And I think any arrangements that might be made between, or concessions or whatever might be agreed to between the association and my clients, that's a matter for them to determine. And so we would hope that the committee would approve it today, and we thank you for your consideration.
All right, thanks very much. If you could just mute yourself and put your video down, that's excellent. I will go out to the public and ask for any input from them.
Members of the public are reminded to use the raise hand button or press *9 to indicate that they would like to address committee. And Chair Stone, I do see 2 hands raised. Would you like me to bring the first one in?
Just one at a time, please. Yes.
Perfect. A reminder to please ensure that you have your microphone and video, if possible, turned on, and confirm your full name and mailing address before beginning your comments.
Hello, Andrew Fife, 6.
Hi there.
2
Do you have a video
Lodge
or not?
Road. I'm just trying to activate it.
Okay, I think it's on the bottom left, little camera.
Okay, I started the video now.
Oh, there you go.
Hello, as I said, it's Andrew Fife, 622 Griffin Lodge Road, Utterson, P0B1MO. I've been delegated by the board to attend the meeting and just to advise the committee of the, just confirm the submission made by the board. The intent is to reach a successful resolution with the party. The time taken, I think it's fair to say that restrictive covenants and their impact can be a little bit of a complex issue, and the board has been seeking some advice on the potential impact of the variance on the covenant. But Mr. Simpson submission in terms of the dual track process is correct, and we're not disputing that. The intent for the board is to move forward in a timely fashion, and I don't think the board wants or the association board does not want a long drawn process either. Thank you.
All right, thanks very much. So if you can just mute yourself and take your video down, I will ask for the other member of the public that wishes to speak to this.
A reminder to please ensure that you have your microphone and video, if possible, turned on, and confirm your full name and mailing address before beginning your comments. And Chair Stone, I'll just add there was another hand raised as well, so there's currently 2 hands.
All right.
Hello.
Hello there.
Hi. We are the owners at 659 Griffin Lodge. We just
received in the mail.
were advised of this new proposed structure 2 weeks ago,
Mhm.
or maybe less because mail is slow. So we were quite surprised that we were never notified or approached by the owner or the applicant. We were a little concerned about the proposed size of the building and invading our privacy because our property is
Below.
on a downhill slope directly from that proposed property and the existing property as well. So, and it's also adjacent to a conservation area. We don't know if this is going to be not necessarily something that can be disclosed, but so the fact that there's going to be a garage tells me that there's going to be permanent residents. I think there'll be a lot more traffic in that little road. I don't know. We are not in favor.
No, we're a little concerned that it's invading on our privacy as we are below that grade. Our properties and our house to be built is looking straight up. So reducing the setbacks, it only enhances the invasion to our privacy. This is our major concern, I would say. I don't know why, like the bylaws have square footage recommended, and this is about double the size. Like, is there a reason? There's a garage presently on the house. I don't understand what's the reasoning for such a large structure. These are kind of the concerns that we have.
Like it's nearly the size of a residential dwelling, and with its 20-meter setbacks as restrictions. But I think this is asking for a lot. And it's mentioned that there'll be additional vegetation planted in front of the building. What about behind the building? Because this is directly invading our privacy, and that's what we feel is
The concern.
our biggest concern.
All right, that's great information. Thank you very much. If I can just ask you to mute yourself and take your video down, we're going to get some more input. There's another member of the public that wishes to speak.
A reminder to please ensure that you have your microphone and video, if possible, turned on, and confirm your full name and mailing address before beginning your comments. Chair Stone, it appears the hand actually was put down as I was speaking there. Oh,
right.
Never mind. There is one hand that just came up. I believe it's the owner of the property.
All right.
Would you like me to bring them in?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Okay. Thanks so much for taking the time to go through this, and I'm sorry it seems to have caused so much consternation. My wife and I are moving into the community full time in a week or two. In fact, we're in the midst of moving right now, and we need a garage and we need some storage space. And one of the misnomers in the application is that it's labeled as a 2-story garage. And Kelsey explained to me that if we want storage above a garage, there is no such thing as a story and a half, that you just get bumped up to 2 stories. And I expressed to Kelsey that I was concerned that this was going to bring in some resistance because it was a big ask, and I recognize that. So just everybody who's listening to this call, we're looking for a 2-car garage and a workshop with storage above. We have no intention of making it inhabitable. Currently, my wife and I each have a car. I'm a builder in Toronto, and I have a lot of equipment from my business, and I'm bringing it up. And I hope to have a shop and do some renovating on our own property and some hobbies. You could see from Kelsey's picture that I've rented a 20-foot sea container in the meantime because we have no storage. The sea container is now full. So equipment, bicycles, that sort of thing are in the sea container, and our cars are left outside. The current driveway is very narrow. I have pictures that I presented to the board back in January showing a single lane driveway that was hazardous. We had to back in and out on the ice, and I talked to some other residents and they said that that was a known hazard for quite some time. I proceeded with our application because we were under the understanding that the zoning authority lied with the municipality. And we are anxious to get the garage built and move forward. And I thought that we would go ahead and get the application in a timely fashion. Everybody knows that the building trades are busy and it's slow. And we're anxious to line up this work so that we can get the sea container off the property. It was not meant to be offensive to anyone. And interestingly enough, through this process, I was made aware of other outbuildings and other residences that have been built within this 10 feet of vegetation. That seems to be the issue. And in those instances, I am told that there was no consideration by the board, that they went most recently, my neighbor to the north at 55 Timber Crescent, when I explained to her our intentions, she said she went through the same process so that she could build her house close to her property line in order to have a gravity-fed septic system. She did not go through any process with the community board to receive approval for such a move. I believe there's other garages. I also spoke to our other immediate neighbor. We only have two, and he as well told me he had no issues with our proposal. And in fact, he himself is building a 2-car garage this summer. So I just want to be sure that everybody on this panel and everybody who's listening in our association understands that we're not trying to insult anybody. Our new neighbors to the south that are building a custom home, apparently it's starting in the spring. I'm really sorry that it seems like we're starting off on a bad foot here, but I didn't consider that it was going to affect you. I wasn't even sure if it was in your line of sight. If you have any issues that we can work out together, we're very good neighbors and we're good contributors to the community, and we'd be happy to meet you and help each other along. Of course, you know, we also have to look at the back of your 3-story structure that's between us and the lake. So
all right, that's
consider here.
That's about enough.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. If you can take your video down for me, please. Yep. Committee members, do you have any? Oh, I'm sorry, Jennifer. Is there more hands?
Yes, Chair Stone. My apologies. The hand did raise again. I think it's a member of the public. Would you like me to bring them in?
Yes, please.
A reminder to please ensure that you have your microphone and video, if possible, turned on, and confirm your full name and mailing address before beginning your comments.
Hello there.
Hi, my name is, sorry, I'm getting an echo there. My name is Debbie Tarshis. I, with my husband, own a property at 55 Logging Trail. The postal code is 55 Logging, sorry, the address is 55 Logging Trail, Utterson, Ontario. P as in Peter, 0, B as in Bob, 1, M as in Michael, 0.
Thank you.
My comments are that I haven't had an opportunity to consider the minor variance application. The property that we own is one of the lots that forms part of the Mary Lake Highlands Cottagers Association. It is about a 5-minute walk from the property owned by the applicant. And I haven't yet received notice of this public hearing. Since I live so close to the property, I would have assumed that I would have received notice of the hearing. And I would just like an opportunity to consider the application more fully. In other words, I would like an opportunity for a deferral, or I would support a deferral for that purpose, not having received notice of the application. The first that I learned of it was April the 9th through an email received from the secretary of the association.
If I can just interrupt just for a second, and the province dictates a certain radius around a given property that we must give notice to. And I suspect you are just outside of that notice radius, but our staff have by law done the notification appropriately around the property.
I'm not sure, with all due respect, I'm not sure that that is the case, in that I know that one of my neighbors, and I know this, I learned this yesterday, who is like literally within a stone's throw of our house, received a notice, which was postmarked, I believe, March 31st. So with all due respect, I'm not sure that that your statement is accurate. I do have one more comment, and that's really just to clear. I have owned the property or my husband and I have owned the property at 55 Logging Trail. I would say for about, I have to track it from my son's age. But anyway, I'd say over 30 years, and or approximately 30 years. And Mr. Stevens referred to another owner, another neighbor being able to do what he would like to do without having had anything done. But with the other owner, sorry, I'm not being very articulate. It's my understanding that what actually happened at that time was that the developer by the name of Paul Myers actually, before the minor variance application was made, obtained the written consent of all of the property owners in the Mary Lake Highlands Cottagers Association. So I just wanted to clarify that point, because I don't believe that what Mr. Stevens said was accurate. That was just for purposes of clarification for the information before the Committee of Adjustment.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. If I can ask you to take your video down and mute yourself. I will once again go out to the public and see if there's anyone else that wishes to speak.
Chair Stone, I see no hands from members of the public, but the homeowner does have a raised hand if you'd like to address that.
No, I'm sorry. He's already had an opportunity to speak, so we're going to move on.
Yeah, then there is no further hands raised.
Thank you very much. Committee members, any comments or questions? Councillor Fitzgerald.
I guess a very reluctant comment. Thank you, Chair Stone. it seems to me that people had proper notification, or at the 11th hour have issue with the application. From my point of view, if our staff are recommending approval based on good planning practices, at what point do we let neighbors that live 5 minutes away or 10 minutes away or 15 minutes away determine what we can give as leniency towards setbacks from lot lines? Where do we draw the line? So it's not an easy thing to consider. And I really have a hard time determining where one proponent spoke about, their proximity to the property and the property line. So I don't know if we need to pull up some topos and see, where the second people that spoke, sorry, and I didn't write down names, I apologize, who are planning to build, where is that property line with the garage on it in relation to their property? So, this whole thing got confusing and opened a can of worms in the last 2 minutes of the application. So, I'm kind of leaning towards going with staff's approval.
Thank you very much. And to that comment, before I go to you, Mr. Donald, Kelsey, do you have a topographic map? Do we have identifies the proposed house that's going to be built on the below this particular application?
Thank you for that question, Mr. Chair. I do have a map in front of me that I could share.
Please.
Yours? Okay. Is everyone able to see that?
Yes.
So this is the subject property, and this is the property that commented. I don't know where their dwelling is proposed on the property. I don't believe they have a site plan, but yeah, that's the location. There is sloping here. So kind of, as mentioned in one of the comments, this kind of creates a valley where this stream goes through. But the proposed garage would be sited here.
And the distance, so what is the measurement? So are we talking 5 meter difference between those yellow lines?
In terms of elevation, yeah, those are the, and I could put on the aerial photo if that's beneficial as well.
Sure.
Sorry. I don't know if that's more helpful or less helpful.
It's interesting. I don't know if it gives us what we're looking for, but that's fine. Can you can take that down, please?
Can I have a
follow up, Councillor Fitzgerald? Yeah.
It seems to me to appear that the lenience given in the lot line in setback has no relation to the adjoining owner.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you very much. Mr. Donald.
Thank you, Chair Stone. A comment also with regard to the comments from Councillor Fitzgerald. I agree with his statements, but I do want to make the point that we seem to be getting dragged into an internal association dispute under the guise of considering an adjustment. The size of the structure did concern me. However, the homeowner has explained the reason for going to over 1,100 square feet. Sorry, to use my square foot measurements rather than square meters. It is substantial, but I'm satisfied that he's doing it for legitimate reasons, the reasonable reasons. And I would be reluctant to get dragged into, to have this committee be used as leverage for an internal association discussion. And if I take Mr. Simpson's comments that these are restrictive covenants as imposed by the association, then it has no bearing on this committee's decision. And also his comments that there have been discussions for a number of weeks, which I take at face value. Then I see no reason for a deferral either. So I concur with Councillor Fitzgerald that I'm inclined towards approving the recommendations as provided by the planner. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Stapleton.
Thank you, Chair Stone. Through you to Kelsey. I know you didn't do the previous application, but is 5 Ruby Lane not in the Griffin Bluffs development as well? That we just recently approved? Because there didn't seem to be any comment from the association about the size of that garage either. So I'm just, and this one's a lesser size than the previous one that we approved.
Kelsey?
Thank you for the question, through you, Mr. Chair. No, they didn't provide, to my knowledge. That was Madeline's application, and we discussed it briefly, and she didn't receive comments from them. They're kind of a bit separated, and that application was in the special policy area where this one wasn't, and this subdivision was created earlier. So I'm not sure if the association goes that far. So, yes.
Director Maxwell.
Thank you. I would just add to Kelsey's comment that this is a separate development and a separate association, whereas Ruby Lane is part of the Griffin Bluffs development, where this is the Mary Lake Highlands development. So.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying.
All right. Any comments or questions from committee, or any amendments or suggestions? Seeing none, I will read the motion.
Oh,
Councillor Fitzgerald.
thank you, Chair Stone. Sorry, I was a little slow on the draw there.
That's all right.
I just would like a second to go back and review the original motion on my screen. And I'm having some technical difficulties to ensure that's what we're putting up on the screen to actually. And is that what we're doing? The original
Would you like to
motion?
see the motion?
I've got it up on my screen. That's fine. So that's the motion we're proposing.
I believe so, yes.
Thank you. Sorry to hold you up, Chair Stowe.
No worries at all. So I see no other comments from committee. If we can put the motion up. It is moved by Helena Wenwick, seconded by Kenneth Donald. Be it resolved that minor variance application A09-2022 HTE be approved. The purpose and effect of which is to provide relief from subsections 3.1.15.3C, 5.3.46C, and 5.3.47 of the Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 2008-66P in order to permit the construction of a detached two-story garage. Reduce the eastern interior side yard setback from 6 meters to 0.9 meters. Reduce the front yard setback from 12 meters to 7.5 meters. Increase the maximum permitted total building area for a detached two-story garage from 60 square meters to 104 square meters, conditional on no habitable space being permitted within the detached garage. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor? And that's carried. All right. So now that all comments have been received, I declare these public meetings respecting the above applications to be concluded. We will now move into the non-public portion of the meeting to deal with consent applications. If the applicant or their agent wishes to make comments regarding their application, please raise your hand after the presentation. And I believe Kelsey, this is our final one, and you're speaking to 47 Yonge Street South.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll just prepare my screen. Great, is everybody able to see that?
Yes.
Perfect. So thank you again, Mr. Chair. Through you, the subject property is located at 47 Yonge Street South. The lot is designated urban residential within the Huntsville settlement area and is zoned residential 2. The purpose of in fact of the consent application is for the creation of 3 new residential lots. Each of the severed lots would have a maximum area of 696 square meters with 15.24 meters of road frontage. 2 severed lots would be on Greaves Avenue and 1 would have frontage on Yonge Street South. The retained lands would also be approximately 696 square meters with a frontage of 15.24 meters on Yonge Street South. So just to illustrate, this would be the retained lot, which currently has development on it. This is the severed lot to be located on Yonge Street South, and these 2 are the ones to be located on Greaves. So the lots are in conformity with the residential 2 lot area and frontage requirements within the urban residential designation, and it is within the intensification corridor. In this built-up area of the Huntsville urban settlement area, although the official plan does not provide minimum frontage requirements for urban residential lots, the policy does note that development is to be designed in such a way as to minimize land consumption and efficiently use infrastructure and community facilities to encourage cost-effective development as appropriate densities and in appropriate locations. Of approval of the consents will enable the creation of 3 new residential lots, which are in keeping with the low density residential development in the area and can be appropriately serviced. In this instance, the proposed lots also conform with the 25 unit per gross hectare density outlined in the lot and density requirements in the official plan. There are no natural constraints on the subject lands or mapped on the subject lands. However, it's worth noting there are slopes on the severed lot or on the proposed severed lot fronting on Yonge Street South. The building department asked that they provide engineered drainage plans to ensure that the development does not have any adverse effects on the abutting lands. So you can see here that's the retained lot and the development already on it. And this is the proposed severed lot on Yonge Street South. The application was circulated in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act. And I'll just illustrate here, this is from Greaves and the development looking towards Yonge Street South. The district provided comments which were provided in attachment 4. The district is not opposed to the approval of the application. 2 members of the public provided comments and objections to the proposal based on the potential impacts to abutting lands. The comments raised concerns about parking on Greaves Avenue, loss of vegetation, erosion and drainage issues, and potential blasting. Staff assessed these concerns in light of the town's policies, and it's worth noting that any parking and uses would have to be within the appropriate parking policies in the zoning bylaw, as well as abide by on-street parking regulations. Additionally, any blasting would have to follow provincial regulations. However, to address the concerns regarding drainage, erosion, vegetation, preparation, and implementation of an engineered drainage plan, it would be a condition of the consent. In addition to vegetation and tree retention, are also recommended as conditions to address these concerns. In view of this report, the application would appear to conform with the intent of the official plan and be consistent with the provincial policy statement, and therefore staff are recommending approval. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thanks very much. Jennifer, do we see any hands from the applicant?
The applicant or their representative are reminded to use the raise hand button or press *9 to indicate that they would like to address the committee. And Chair Stone, I do see 1 hand.
Okay, thank you.
Chair Stone, judging by the name, it's not on the applicant or owner. Do you still want me to bring them in?
No, I'm afraid not.
Okay.
Committee members, do you have any comments or questions? All right. Seeing none. Hello, Jennifer?
Chair Stone, I'm just conversing with my colleagues just to make sure that that member isn't supposed to be with this application. I believe it looks like Kelsey's mentioned he is the applicant. Is that okay to bring him in?
The applicant may speak. This is not a public meeting for public input. We have already gone through that. So
All
if
right.
it's the applicant, then yes.
Yes, I have confirmed that it is the applicant. Would it be all right to bring them in?
Yes, please.
My apologies for that. A reminder to please have your microphone and video, if possible, turned on before you begin speaking, and to confirm your name and mailing address.
Hi there, Chairman and councilors. My name is Pablo Willis. I'm from the Good Life Building Company. Our address is 3250 Bloor Street West, Suite 600, down in Toronto. So I just wanted to mention that. Thanks for letting me in here to speak quickly. One thing I wanted to mention, there is kind of two things. So I did want to talk about the parking first. We have done basically the same units as we're intending to build on these three properties just to the north of these. They have 4 parking spaces each that are allowed on the property. So to address that parking, we see that as being pretty sufficient and is currently sufficient for the buildings on the top. We're not seeing any street parking kind of developing from that. So I just wanted to mention that. I think it is a good comment, but just so you know what's happening there from a parking perspective. Okay. The other thing is we've had some really good conversations with Bob and Sue. They're just to the south of us, and they have some legitimate concerns around water getting on their property. And I guess they're not allowed on this. Sorry, I was in the intention it was a public meeting, but I've gone and talked to them. And Kelsey, I don't know, am I allowed to share the grading plan to show the counselors as well, or not right now?
That's up to me, and sure you can.
Okay. Sorry, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to share that to kind of talk that through because I think that is important here. All right. Mr. Chairman, can you see that on the screen there?
Can, yes.
Okay. So I'm just going to walk you through this quickly. So after talking to the neighbors and after we finish this current development to the north that we've done, what we've realized is that, I guess, long-term with the city, there's been water issues coming down this pretty steep hill and then hitting, especially this lot here, which is relatively flat as it comes down. And we've had a couple of discussions with these neighbors as well. Also, we've noted that their backyards sometimes get flooded as the water's coming down through this forest into this piece. And I think the town and operations, we talked to Brandon a little bit about that, what that looks like. So in those discussions, we've tried to design something to make sure that can now stop. So as we develop this, these little arrows here are swales, which just direct water in a certain direction. We did increase the ditch size and capacity on the front end when we completed the development to the north. So we're going to direct some of the water to that ditch on the front, and as well some of the water out to the back here, as you can see. And then now that goes now into the storm system, as you can see here. That gives us, a really nice blockage of overflow water now hitting these properties. So we've tried to really listen to these comments from the neighbors and how we can kind of stop this water flow affecting their properties. The other thing I want to mention is we've talked to Bob and Sue here, the representatives for the neighbors, and they've, there's kind of two questions here. One, if we can't build this property, we can keep the trees, but the water problem remains for them. The other one is that, we can get this retaining wall built, build these swales and make these properties happen. But we are going to lose some of the trees across the bottom of this retaining wall. And I've had a number of conversations with Matt, my partner, and they've seemed very amicable to that happening, to stop the water issues there. And what we do want to just have a conversation with is try to keep as many trees as we can up to this section of the base of the retaining wall. And Bob and Sue's real question there was they really didn't want the construction to kill a tree and then later on affect possibly that tree falling on their house or dying in the future. Okay, so what we've discussed with them, and I just want to be transparent with the council as well, is when we build this retaining wall with them, and obviously Kelsey and the city have to do with this too, but where are we going to take these trees back to? And we're totally open to being amicable with the neighbors on this, on what we keep and don't keep, and including the city there as well. But we do have to balance out managing the water issue and getting rid of trees to allow the retaining wall to happen. So as we've designed this, we've tried to be very careful as to balancing that out. The last thing I think is worth mentioning, because it's not on this plan, is we also discussed with the neighbors a little bit about privacy. Because we're quite a bit higher than they are here, we've also discussed being totally amicable to run a fence at the top of this grade that kind of goes a little bit further back into this property. So as we build out this backyard and grade it, the residents of this place will have a fence there and are not kind of looking directly onto their deck and onto their property as we go. So I think that's not on the grading plan. I did want to convey that we've had those conversations with the neighbors, because I think those are important to be respectful neighbors and allow that to happen. So, okay.
If you can stop sharing your screen, and I absolutely want to thank you for that. That's, the topography there is not easy to work with for anybody. I'm hoping the neighbors love that they're not going to have as much water in the future that they have right now when nothing's there. And, I really appreciate that you're concerned about the trees. We love our trees here in Huntsville.
Yep.
And I hope you're planning on adding some trees.
Well, we've kept a lot of the trees in the development, Mr. Chairman. So like a lot of the to the north, we haven't just clear cut what we can. We're basically just clearing backyards for people and their kids to play. But every tree we can keep, we do keep. Obviously, we do want some ability for kids to play and whatnot, and construction does have to happen. But we're not looking to just clear cut the lots at all. So there's forest in between those pieces. We'll keep as much as we can. I think that adds shade and enjoyment to the property. So.
I love to hear that. Thank you for that. Yep. All right. You can take your video down. I'm going to go to committee for any comments or questions. All right. I think a lot of our questions were answered by that gentleman. So wonderful. All right. Then moved by Kenneth Donald, seconded by Brandon Stapleton, that the Committee of Adjustment approve consent application B 1113 2022 HTE for the creation of 3 new residential lots, conditional on 1, a registrable description of the severed lot being submitted to the Secretary Treasurer, including all rights of ways and easements, along with a registered copy of the reference plan. 2, the owner's taxes being in good standing. 3, a site inspection fee of $230 being paid to the town of Huntsville. 4, a consent finalization fee in the amount of $175 being paid to the town of Huntsville. 5% cash in lieu of parkland being paid to the town of Huntsville on the severed lands. 6, the owner entering into and registering on title an agreement pursuant to Section 5126 of the Planning Act 1990 RSO as amended to implement the following. The land shall be subject to site plan approval pursuant to Section 41 of the Planning Act 1990 RSO as amended. No site alteration shall be permitted until the site plan agreement with the town of Huntsville is registered on title to the subject lands. And finally, the implementation of any recommendations contained within an engineered drainage plan and a vegetation and tree retention plan, both prepared by qualified professionals to the satisfaction of the town of Huntsville. Final comments or questions? All in favor? And that's carried. All right. Well, that was fun. Councilor Fitzgerald has a question.
More of a comment, Chair Stone. I just want to compliment the planning department and everyone involved with the meeting today. Everything was very efficient and presented in an easy manner to determine everything. So great work. Appreciate it.
I would concur. All right, then. With that, moved by Councillor Fitzgerald, seconded by Helena Renwick, be it resolved that we do now adjourn at 10:24 a.m. All in favor? And that's carried. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Excellent.